Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Liverpool Latest. My name is Matt, and I am proud to bring you the latest Liverpool news. As always, I got a couple of different things to talk about today. One, Jurgen Klopp being a classic little troll, making us feel one thing, ends up doing another. I'm going to give you guys the international break results from the previous games up to this point of the recording between Hungary and Armenia and France and Ukraine. And last but not least, I'll be touching on Liverpool women's team. Traditionally, I would be talking about the men's team, but I saw some news on the women's team today that I wanted to add my 2 cents on based on the information provided to me in the article. Let's start first with our boy, Jurgen Klopp. Probably one of the most beloved managers in recent memory. I think no one's denying that. He puts out a Instagram reel on his personal Instagram account that he made after he left Liverpool. And he goes on to say things along the lines of going back to the sideline. I don't miss anything, but now it's tingling again. And, he goes on to talk about the feeling of being on the field, things of that nature, the atmosphere of stadiums. The grass under his feet is a direct quote that he used. But this guy being the fucking troll he is, I swear to God. This is why I love Jurgen Klopp, man. He's got personality. He seems like a genuinely good man, and he's got a good personality to him. He says, "Oh no, not as a manager. I'm becoming a pundit for Magenta TV at the FIFA World Cup 2026. So, that son of a bitch had us on there on the ropes for a second. I watched that clip and I was thinking like, oh my God, is this really happening? And then that's when the news dropped. So Jurgen Klopp is going to be a pundit for the World Cup in 2026, which is only about 8 months away now, maybe more or less. It's going to be going on in June. So I think this is going to be great for him. He's already got a couple of different roles in football since leaving Liverpool. One of them being the head of global football for the Red Bull Group, and then he is also a member of the German Football League expert group, which is focused on improving football throughout the country of Germany. So I won't lie, I'm a little disappointed, because there's been the rumors of him possibly coming back. But at the same time, I'm glad that he's able to keep himself busy around the world of football. A lot of people weren't too pleased with this news, and this is kind of where I want to take the angle of this, where it's like, oh, he announced he's going to be a pundit. Cool. Awesome. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, they're all angry that he's like, oh, he said he was tired and running out of energy from football. Meanwhile, he's doing more work than ever, it seems. And honestly, I don't know what it's like to be a manager in the sport of football at all, okay? I can only imagine the amount of stress and pressure that you have to go through for the amount of time a season lasts for, having to constantly prep for different teams, for possibly different tournaments, the stress of you being a big name team coach with Liverpool for as long as he was. I can only imagine the stress of that, especially with the whole doubters to believers comment that he had made when he had signed on as manager. So he had to back up those words more than anybody. The other thing is that, I don't see these roles. I see these roles as more of like corporate roles, okay? And corporate roles, I wouldn't say are as stressful. I'm sure there is an amount of stress to them, but I would think that these roles are less taxing physically, mentally, emotionally than being on the pitch, having to fight with refs about bad calls, prepping your teams during before matchups and training. Obviously, he probably has to get in there at some point in time to show what they're talking about. So maybe he's a little bit of playing time in there for him as well. But I'm happy that he's happy. I really am. I think Jurgen Klopp deserves the world, and the fact that he has this opportunity to be a pundit is really cool, and it's going to be really interesting to see him on the sideline for Magenta TV, and I look forward to it. I really do. What I also look forward to talking about is the international break news. First and foremost, let's touch on France versus Ukraine. France beat the crap out of Ukraine, you know? I don't want to get political about it, but, you know, Ukraine's been taking a beating the last couple of years, and in sports, it seems to be no different. They lost 4-0. Mbappe had a couple of great goals, one of them being a penalty. Editike is what I really want to talk about. Editike had a goal in the 88th minute of the match, and it was really cool for him. It's his first senior international goal, and it was the goal that capped off the 4-0 win. Also made an assist in the match as well, which is great for him. The fact that he's getting that opportunity and the fact that he's performing at the level we know he could perform at is very good for him. So overall, strong contribution, limited playing time, perfect. Konate is a different story. He did not get on the pitch at all during the match versus Ukraine, so his contribution to the game was as a substitute, and he was not active in play whatsoever. So he really didn't have a factor in the game. So I don't know if that has something to do with the fact that he's stressed about the contract situation and everything involved in that, or they just didn't feel a need to use him because they didn't see Ukraine as a strong enough opponent to use such a, well, I would still consider Konate to be a very strong defender. So why risk getting 2 Liverpool players hurt against a team like Ukraine? So that's my point of view on it. So either way, I think it helped Editike in a sense where it's like, hey, one of my boys didn't get on the pitch. Let me score some goals for him. And that's exactly what Ugo did. So good for him. He deserves it. A great win for France in the international break, despite my own personal biases, which I talked about previously in a previous video. Hungary and Armenia is another game that took place, and this one has a little bit more to it than the last one. Dominik Szoboszlai for Hungary was absolutely everywhere on the pitch, it seems, from multiple different set-piece attempts with corners. He led a assist, or his passing led to an assist for Hungary to control the game. I think it was the only goal that game. So the fact that he has a stat in regards to the only goal in the game is impressive enough as it seems. Overall, strong showing. He is the captain of the Hungarian national team after all. You can't say enough about him. I mean, whether it's Liverpool or Hungary, the guy is performing at a level that is worthy of him earning a extension of the contract that is being demanded from his team. So Liverpool, in my opinion, would be stupid to not sign him at this point in time. But that's just my personal opinion. Kirkes was another one on the pitch during a majority of the match. He was subbed off later on. But to me, from what I'm reading, he didn't really have a positive impact, but he didn't have a negative impact either. He was just kind of there. You know, he wasn't highlighted directly with the assist or the goal, but his defensive plays definitely helped him keep it to a clean sheet. So overall, I would call that a success for Kirkes, given some of his issues being a Liverpool defenseman. So I hope that continues to transfer over to more time on the pitch during the Premier League games when they come back next week. What I also want to talk about today is the Liverpool women's team. Now, typically, as I said, we talk about the men's team. That's kind of what the main focus of the channel is about. That said, Liverpool isn't just one team over another, regardless of gender. It is an organization. It is a family. And I believe it is in my rightful duty to talk about the women's team because I try to support them as much as I support the men's. Unfortunately, the women's team is having just as much of an issue, if not more so, than the men's team is, with being winless in 7 WSL games. And here's a couple of the key reasons that are being reported because of that issue. Obviously, being the women's league, I would assume already that there's an underinvestment in players and talent. Hell, I'm assuming there's an underinvestment in the league in general, to be honest with you. And I'm not going to say I'm the biggest women's football fan, but if it's on, I'll watch it. I mean, football or soccer is just that, football or soccer, regardless of gender. I don't see it even advertised on TV enough to me even know that it's going on. I have to rely on Instagram and Twitter and social media to even tell me what's going on, to the fact that games are even airing right now. So that's kind of a problem in its own right. I know when it comes to the World Cup, the women's teams, the national teams, they're showcased much more in the forefront, but especially the U.S. team. But it's just not something that's super popular from what I can gather. So an underinvestment in the overall team is just not, it's catching up to them. And I could, what seems as though was a record-breaking transfer window for Liverpool men's team over the summer, it seems like it did not transfer over to the women's team, which is an absolute shame. This, of course, was a loss, leading to a loss of players and a poor summer window. When you lose key players on a team, regardless of what team it is, it's tough. And clearly, given the results of the games that are happening, it's showing for the women's team. Not to mention, injuries are always a factor. There's multiple ACL injuries, being Sophie Roman Haag, who is a starting striker, and Marie Hobbinger, who is another playmaker on the team, which is already limiting the squad depth as it stands. But this is the important piece that I want to touch on, okay? Because I think this is affecting the men's team just as much as this is currently affecting the women's team. The men's team had the loss of Diogo Jota, all right? A player that I loved personally. It's affecting all of us still to this day to some degree. More so probably the players, given that Mo Salah was close with him, and we see that in his performances. That said, the women's team also suffered a lot of loss in its own right. The sudden deaths of Matt Beard, who was one of the former managers of the team, and a long-time kitman in Jonathan Humble. It's a huge emotional strain to lose someone who's been a part of the team that long. I remember seeing the news about that, and I thought to myself, what a shame. It seems like Liverpool is just, I don't want to say cursed, but it's certainly in an emotional, valley right now. How there's peaks and there's valleys. We're in the valley as far as loss and emotion and how that transfers onto the pitch. And obviously, the women's team suffering their losses is no different than us in the men's team, I should say. So, and of course, this is something I want to touch on too, because this is a problem for the men's as well. Liverpool have dropped 11 points from winning positions. Blowing leads, the typical Liverpool style. If we're not losing right out the gate for a comeback victory, we're getting leads and blowing them in the later portions of the game. So it's a real shame. That can go to a couple of different factors, fatigue, lack of experience, mental lapses that occur during matches, as every player of any sport is prone to falling to. So this is not just a Liverpool women's team problem. It's a shame. It really is a shame, and it makes me sad to see the state that they are in. And it's probably going to get even worse because their next opponents in the WSL are Chelsea and Arsenal, who are the toughest matches possible given the lack of depth and injuries and issues that I've already talked about previously. So it's a real shame, and it sucks to see a team, an extension of the men's team and the women's, go through as much hardship as the men's team has gone through in the last couple of weeks. And it's weird because, well, it's not weird, but this was, 10 or so years ago. They were back to back champions in the WSL. So I wonder, I mean, obviously those factors I talked about are key points here, but it's like, man, it's like the highest of highs at one point in time to the absolute lowest of lows. And it's a real shame to see. But I wish the Liverpool women's team well. And I would I would hope that we all continue to support them as much as we support the men's team. Hopefully, I could find games on television. I think ESPN plays games for them every now and again. And so, if there's the opportunity for me to watch, I know I'll be there, and I'll hopefully try to report on it a little bit more than I have. Because as I said, equality is a very important factor in sports, whether we all like to agree with it or not. But I think it's only fair to say that I'll try to do my best to report more on the women's team as much as I do on the men's team. So, with that being said, I appreciate you guys checking out Liverpool Latest for today. Thank you, and as always, you'll never walk alone.